One day, the queen finally got pregnant, and everyone was very happy with this good news. The whole kingdom shared the happiness of the king and queen. As time passed, the baby in the queen's womb grew, and the expected day came. The queen gave birth to a baby girl. The king and queen were so happy that they named this beautiful and healthy baby Aurora. A great feast was held in the kingdom in honor of the birth of baby Aurora. Nobles, friends, and the wisest people of the kingdom from all over the country were invited to this feast. The king and queen did not forget to invite 7 fairies for baby Aurora, because at that time, fairies wished babies well and presented them with special gifts. The day of the feast arrived, and everyone flocked to the palace. The fairies came to baby Aurora one by one and made her beautiful wishes. One fairy said, "She will be the most beautiful girl in the world." The second fairy said, "She will be so graceful that everyone will admire her." The third fairy said, "Aurora will sing with a magnificent voice." However, at that very moment, another fairy who had not been invited to the palace, the evil-hearted Maleficent, appeared in great anger. No one expected her to come because they had forgotten her and had not invited her. Maleficent wanted to take her anger out on the king and queen and shouted in a frightening voice to the large hall, "You did not invite me, but I will still give you a gift." Maleficent placed a terrible curse on baby Aurora. When Aurora turns 16, a spindle will prick her hand and she will fall into a deep sleep. She will sleep forever. Everyone was horrified by this curse. The queen burst into tears, and the king did not know what to do with his anger. However, one of the fairies appeared before the evil fairy left and said, "The curse is very strong, but I can ease it. Aurora will not die forever. She will only fall into a deep sleep. Only true love's kiss can bring her back to life." The king and queen took every precaution to protect their daughter from this terrible fate. All the spindles and spinning tools in the kingdom were collected and burned. A secret house was built for Aurora to grow up outside the palace, deep in the forest, under the protection of the fairies. 3 good fairies were assigned to raise Aurora in this house and protect her. While Aurora was growing up in the forest with the fairies, she became a very cheerful and happy child. The fairies never told her that she was a princess and made her think that she was an ordinary village girl. Aurora's beauty increased with each passing year, and she really became a beautiful girl, just as the fairies said. This young girl, who did not even know that her own name was Aurora, lived a happy life by making friends only with the fairies and the animals of the forest. But the irony of fate happened when Aurora turned 16. Believing that the palace and the kingdom were safe from danger, the fairies decided that it was time for the princess to return to the palace where she was born. Aurora returned to the palace with great excitement and happiness. When they arrived at the palace, Aurora entered a mysterious room. In this room, something she had never seen before caught her attention, a spinning loom and a sparkling spindle at the end of it. The moment Aurora succumbed to her curiosity and touched the spindle with her finger, Maleficent's curse came true. Her eyes suddenly closed, and she fell into a deep sleep. Everyone in the palace witnessed this event, and even the fairies could not prevent it. While Aurora was falling into a deep sleep, another miracle happened in the palace. Everyone in the country fell asleep at the same time as the princess. The king, the queen, the servants, everyone fell into a deep sleep at once. Years passed, and the palace was now covered in silence. No one could find a way to wake the princess. But one day, a brave prince from a distant land heard Aurora's story. The prince set out on a long journey to find this legendary palace. He encountered many difficulties on the way, but no obstacle could stop him. He finally reached the palace covered in giant thorns. The palace garden grew over time and was filled with thorny plants, and these plants seemed to protect the princess. However, the prince was determined. He drew his sword and cut the thorns one by one and reached the room where Aurora was lying. Aurora was sleeping peacefully in bed. The prince was enchanted by her beauty. As the fairies said, he gave her a kiss full of true love. At that moment, a miracle happened. Aurora's eyes slowly opened and she woke up from her deep sleep. When Aurora saw the prince, her heart was filled with love. Everyone in the palace also woke up, and great excitement began. The king and queen burst into tears with the joy of seeing their daughter again. Aurora and the prince fell in love and got married in a big wedding. Everyone in the country celebrated with great joy. Evil Maleficent could never harm Aurora again. And so Aurora and the brave prince lived happily ever after.